Hello and welcome back to Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, I am your co-host Ethan, joined today by Josh and Ryan, and we're here to talk about the draft. So the draft was just this last Thursday through Saturday. We were going to live stream it, and just kind of plans changed a little bit. But Josh, the draft, it was crazy.
Boy, that crazy is an understatement considering what kind of transpired and went down. We had a lot of defensive players go round one, but lo and behold, our fantasy important players came through. And overall, I think it was pretty exciting first round. It's the fastest I've ever seen the first 15 picks get selected.
Oh yeah, they were flying. I mean, usually the draft is like an all-night affair, but I mean,
until
done 2.5 hours.
Yeah, until the Vikings guy in round two, which that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more next week.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we sure will. But yeah, we kind of talked about with all the big trades in free agency, the Tyreek Hill trade, the Devontae Adams trade, the Russell Wilson trade, and so there's a lot of things that kind of completely impacted this draft, and we finally could see kind of what was the result. So gentlemen, I bring this up to you. How did y'all feel about the draft?
I thought it was great. I didn't expect this many defensive players to go in the first round, but I mean, just pick after pick was just defense, and I think that's great overall for the league because my gosh, scoring has gotten so much easier over the last couple of years. Like the average score in the game, like in an average game, has gone up year after year. So having just an influx of so much defensive talent might bring that back down, which is actually kind of nice and makes it pretty competitive. So
yeah, I mean,
overall, I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we were hyping this thing up for weeks and it did not disappoint.
Nope.
We thought it was going to be crazy. We thought it was going to be hot and heavy, and I mean, it was like starting off with the first pick. So I think we can kick off, can't we, Josh? Go to our first.
Yep.
All right. So kicking to our number one pick. No one believed me, man, but let me tell you all one thing. All right. When a GM publicly comes out and says, I love this guy, believe what he says. I mean, Mel Kiper went on during the ESPN coverage and said it. A couple of the other hosts mentioned it, but when a GM says we're taking this guy, more than likely they're taking that guy because I heard, is it Blake? Is that his last name?
Balky.
Yeah, Balky, yeah. I heard he was in love with Trayvon Walker, and I texted Josh and I said, I guarantee you Trayvon Walker's the first overall pick.
I agree with you. I also don't hate the pick because I could see Trent Balky's kind of perspective here. He's thinking this guy is Aldon Smith, but way better at the run game.
Yeah.
And when you're a dude who's like 6'5", 270 plus, and can run just as fast as some of your receivers on the team, that's freaky and definitely deserving of the number one pick.
Yeah, I mean, from a 0 tech, a 3 tech, he can play 3-4, he can play 4-3, he can stand up. Dude's a freak. And I get that because that's what defensive coordinators nowadays want. They want the kind of flexibility to move them around and, maybe not necessarily have a position, but can kind of play all over and wreak havoc. Because that's kind of the experiments that's been working with Aaron Donald of just kind of lining him up everywhere and him just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah. In the words of, I'll bring up a guy I follow for Ravens news and all that, Spencer Schultz from Baltimore B-Town, draft aliens and prosper. That's exactly what happened with the number one overall pick.
Yeah, and I don't hate it. He's a big guy. He's got a lot of talent, obviously. I mean, who knows? Because, he's with that Georgia team. So who knows what he's actually going to be in the NFL. But there is a lot there.
Yeah, the athleticism that he has is just unmatched. So I think he's going to do great in Jackson.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing here, we were hearing Derek Stingley at 3, and I was like, really? Everyone kind of crapped on him all in the pre-draft process, but now it's also really weird coming from Lovie Smith, who's a major cover 2 guy. But again, draft aliens and prosper. I think Stingley's kind of one of those guys.
Yeah, and I had heard Stingley.
hoping he would drop.
I didn't think they were going to go for it because we talked about and did our predictions for every single pick in our group chat. And one thing we all kind of said is like, yeah, I could see him taking Stingley, but there's no way that they do. We all projected him to go a little bit later, and we thought the Texans were going to take an offensive lineman, but
we thought so too. Which I mean, we could talk about. Eventually, they did at pick 13, which I think it's not the flashy pick, but it's the right pick, especially for who they took. But let's kind of go through down the list. Trayvon Walker 1, Aiden Hutchinson 2, Stingley 3, Sauce Gardner 4, which that's a big one for the solid defense.
The Jets. Get ready.
The Jets
for us to
killed
talk
the
a lot
draft.
about the Jets. Yeah, they absolutely destroyed the first.
The Jets won this draft. They won the whole thing.
Yeah, the Jets won the draft.
The Jets are one of my winners, 100%.
Oh yeah. Just as we were watching, like after they made their third pick in the
we were done, bro.
Yeah,
we
the
were
third of the first round.
I just looked over. Yeah, I looked over at Ethan and I was just like, yeah, the Jets won.
Yeah, dude. He looked at me and I was like, dude, what did the Jets just do?
Yeah,
Jets just owned the first round.
And I'll tell you, they literally at their first 4 picks got 4 starters, and I think that's not easy to do. And I think that's a great job on Joe Douglas and that front office because they put in the work. I think Sauce fits perfectly with the Saleh system, and Sauce may legitimately be, in about 1 or 2 years, the best corner Saleh's had.
Yeah.
Over Sherman,
Definitely
over everyone from San Francisco. Kayvon Thibodeau at 5, great pick, especially with the wing scheme.
Yeah. New York killed it too. They got 2 starters.
Both New York teams did.
In the top 10.
Let's go. The first offensive player at 6, Ike Ekwonu.
To a desperate O-line.
Yeah, but needed. So
definitely
thank you,
needed.
DJ Moore. DJ Moore is sending flowers over. Evan Neal at 7. I love. He can play either way, and that also moves Andrew Thomas to where you want. Just build the team at this point because Joe Judge kind of killed it. Well, destroyed it. All right, let's talk about.
Let's talk about 8. Let's talk about 8.
Yeah, well, let's talk about. We knew so a lot of people from Matt Miller to a lot of the draft analysts you see on Twitter and on Bleacher Report, ESPN, and all that were saying a receiver run is coming, and it started at number 8 with Drake London. Personally, that's a good pick considering who he used to have at receiver, but I think that's a big body receiver that's going to help get targets and at least get things moving.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at Atlanta's receiving core right now, you've got Drake London, 6'5", you've got Auden Tate, 6'4", and you've got Kyle Pitts, 6'6".
Yeah.
So the Atlanta Falcons are going to have some fun this season. I don't know how good they're going to be, but they're going to have fun.
I'm glad that Pitts is getting somebody else there to help him out because he had a hard time last year getting double teamed just about every week.
Yeah.
Still produced, but had a hard time.
Yeah, Pitts and Ritter need help there, and also.
And can I say something really quickly?
Yes.
With the Falcons before we get really into Drake London, but I think the Falcons are going to be sneaky good this year because there's still some free agency moves that they can make. I mean, Carl Nassib is still out there. You have Jarvis Landry, who's still out there. You have Akeem Hicks, who's still out there. And those are kind of the last 3 pickups that if Atlanta can go for, they can be sneaky good this year.
They could be sneaky good. I mean, we could talk about the Falcons right now. They re-signed Grady Jarrett like a couple hours ago.
3-year, $51 million deal.
But on top of the Grady Jarrett thing, they lowered his cap hit. So I'm like, that's interesting. They're definitely setting up for someone else. Especially in that system, I would go Akeem Hicks to move Grady Jarrett to the 3 tech.
Yeah.
And then like on the outside, you're gonna have they picked up Ebiketie in the round 2, and then you can have Marlon Davis right there. Like, I think they're going to be pretty sneaky as long as they can get the offense roll with Mariota or Desmond Ritter, who they took in the 3rd round.
Yeah, and I want to wait to talk about that in a second. I want to stay focused on the 1st round. So let's go back to Drake London. You're absolutely right, Richter. Like they were saying, we don't know when, but with all these offseason moves, at some point in this draft, wide receivers are going to get taken. And I think the Commanders missed out at 11 with trading back, because I mean, at 11, they could have gotten Olave, they could have gotten Jameson Williams, they could have gotten
but Treylon Burks was available when instead they took Dotson. But that also brings up something I do want to intrigued in is that is Terry McLaurin available? Am I like?
I don't think he is. I think Terry Lauren wants to make you think he's available, but I don't think they're letting him go.
I don't think
they'll let him go.
Here's why I bring that up. So you have Terry, Curtis Samuel, Diami Brown, who they picked up in early third round last year, and now Jahan Dotson. So are you just going to be playing 11 personnel the entire time? Like, so what's going to happen here? So that's something that I think is going to be interesting. And I think the thing that gets weird with the Commanders is that they had a lot of holes everywhere else, and then they went with receiver. And I was like, I mean, I kind of thought that's where I was like, you went desperate, you took your guy, that's okay. But I don't know. Time will tell. Especially,
I think they kind of reached. You know, I think that's a little bit of a reach.
Yeah, which I mean, let's keep going with the wide receiver run because it kind of started heating up at 10. But
I love Drake London. Just finishing our thought on 8. We love Drake London. I think that's going to be great for Atlanta.
Worthy of the number 8 pick, I think. I think
my gosh, his Colorado game, worthy of the number 8 pick.
I was going to bring him to UCLA game because that's just insane.
I mean, 6 of his 8 games that he played, he had over 130 yards.
Yeah, and he was
going to get it in his last game or in his game where he got injured, but you know he left in the second quarter when he had 5 receptions for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, you know that dude's a freak.
Yeah, a complete freak. But let's go to Charles Cross at 9, very good pick. I mean, a lot of people had him as OT1.
He might be interesting in Seattle, who likes to do a lot of run because Mississippi State is. I mean, that was one of their knocks on him is can he run block?
Well, so I want to throw this out there. You have to remember, especially when it comes to coaching changes, especially in college, that you have to understand who was recruiting the player.
Right.
And at that time, it was Dan Mullen still. So there was a it was a gap heavy scheme. So it wasn't the Leach scheme where he got recruited in. He was recruited to be like gap heavy, run blocking, and then obviously athletically develop into an incredible pass blocker.
Oh yeah.
So I think the transition's not going to be that tough for him, honestly. But he just has a lot of. Yeah, it's just a question,
yeah.
But I think
going into a zone run scheme. Can you just make that transition?
You're going into a zone run scheme with Drew Lock quarterback.
Can you survive? I think that's a valid question.
That is a valid question considering what they do in round 2 is something I really do want to bring up. But pick 10, Garrett. I'm going to go pick 10 through 12 because this is where things got spicy. Garrett Wilson to the Jets, Olave at 11 to the Saints, who traded up from 16. And then the Lions trade up with one of the biggest trade steals I think I've ever seen, which they trade 32, 34, 66 for 12 and 46. Incredible value. And they get Jameson Williams. Out of all those picks, Garrett Wilson fits that LaFleur Shanahan scheme so well, and it's only going to help Zach Wilson out, which unfortunately has not been posted at this time, but we talked about in our statathon for quarterbacks, I have Zach Wilson a lot higher going into this year.
Yeah. Right.
But overall,
which will be coming out
soon.
It will be coming out
eventually. But I personally love Jameson Williams at 12. I think that completely opens up. It does not take away Amon-Ra St. Brown at all. You have a 4-headed monster right now of Jameson Williams, let him recover, DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, along with TJ Hawkinson and Swift.
I want to throw a wrench in this.
Yeah, throw the wrench, Ethan.
Go ahead.
Here's the wrench. Your quarterback is Jared Goff,
who you've seen before has taken the team to a Super Bowl. Whether you like it or not.
He can produce.
Is Aaron Donald on the Detroit Lions?
No, but
I'm sorry.
But Lee McNeil is.
What?
I'm just saying, Jared Goff is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and he got carried by the Rams and then in the Super Bowl. But anyways,
But
Pick
anyway,
But he still
13.
put up decent numbers.
Go
Still
ahead.
put up
Go ahead,
decent
Victor.
numbers.
Okay.
Tell us about pick 13, buddy.
Pick 13. I was yelling and screaming and punching air. Eagles trade up from 15, gave up a lot, but they get their guy Jordan Davis, and they already had a stacked D line and added more people. And also, in the words of a lot of people, Howie Roseman for prison. But I still think the Ravens actually came out really nice considering who they have in their division. Kyle Hamilton at 14, which I love.
Yeah.
The more I'm thinking about it,
Good
the more I
value.
love the pick. It also
Yeah,
sounds like
solid
he's a
pick.
day one starter too, which makes me happy.
He's got an incredibly high floor. I think he's going to be a freak.
Mhm.
I really
yeah.
thought Atlanta was going to go with him, but I think it was like the day or 2 days before the draft. There was an interview that they did with Arthur Smith and Dean Pease because it was the volunteer OTAs. And they're like, okay, so what's kind of the expectation for last year's class? And they just came out and said point blank, we expect all of them to get significant playing time. So I kind of read between those lines because they were asking about Richie Grant. And just from what it sounds like, he's making really good strides into playing. And I mean, he showed a lot of promise towards the end of the year last year, kind of when they started winning some football games, that he could be, a good, special player.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of does make sense, like in hindsight. And also, they just had the glaring need of receiver that really.
Yeah, I
does
mean,
have to
you've
get
got a guy
addressed.
who's developing the way you want him to. You need a wide receiver. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But
And
I love the confidence that they have in him, and that makes me happy as a fan.
yes. And now, let's go through 15 all the way up to 20. Kenyon Green, Jahan Dotson, Zion Johnson. Now, this is where things got spicy. And I think let's kind of stop the draft for a moment and let's talk about this. So, as soon as the Ravens take Kyle Hamilton, they said, you know what? We have a trade on our hands. We're going to trade Hollywood Brown to the Arizona Cardinals and pick 100 for pick 23. And then, not even, 30 minutes later, you get the news from Adam Schefter. A.J. Brown traded to the Eagles for pick 18 and a fourth-round pick. So, gentlemen, one, I think what is the more impact? What is the bigger impact as far as the trade goes, and which one did you like more?
That's a good question.
I think overall. What?
No, go after you, buddy. After you.
I was gonna say, I think it was the Titans-Eagles trade. Just trade number one wide receiver out and not really having that much of a backup. Like, you're trading them away and you're kind of, playing roulette with a rookie to replace. So I think that was just a huge trade for them. But if they trust Treylon Burks that much, good on them.
I think both trades are more
to fill
indicative of. I think we're about to see a logjam at receiver, and I have a theory going on right now. I don't have much to kind of back up, but the gut feeling I kind of had, especially with both trades, because they're both from the same class, is wide receiver is about to become the running back position of the early 2000s, where everyone had one, and then it became to the point where I don't need to draft one because I can get the same guy in round 2 or 3.
Right.
And then eventually comes 4 or 5 and 6 or 7 or undrafted, depending on your scheme. And I have a feeling that wide receiver had just from your 7-on-7s and all these tournaments and just how the rules are set up, it may actually become the same thing. So it's something I went, that's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think wide receivers are the it factor in this league. As far as trade winner, I really don't know who won. I think the only loser is the Ravens, because what are they going to do at wide receiver? Because I'm guessing that they were.
They have
because
Rashad
they thought
Bateman.
Well, so all right, so this
okay,
is
yeah. I'm going to put my confidence in Rashad Bateman, but go ahead, Victor.
So I get
he had
that
a pretty
sentiment.
good year last year.
I honestly get that sentiment, and if I'm the Ravens GM, I'm thinking about this. You're hearing from Hollywood that he's been kind of requesting a trade since year 2. you weren't going to get better value for him than right now, especially with Arizona realizing that the receiver
that's good
run,
value.
Especially that the receiver run was happening. The fact that you got basically a career wide receiver 2 for a first round pick is incredible. And that's what blows me away. But I think, and then the Ravens kind of doubled down, and we'll talk about this in the mid rounds to late rounds, and said, no, we're not taking a wide receiver. So that tells me that the Ravens have a plan for post June 1st. So whether that is a massive trade or like small veteran acquisitions, it also looks like the Ravens are moving more towards the multiple tight end sets that worked so well in 2019.
I think they're going to be picking up some.
To me, the big winner is the Eagles, though. I think that's the bigger. Okay. That's the bigger.
I'll play devil's advocate.
Yeah. So here's why. So the reason why is because, like Miami, you're finding out whether Jalen Hurts is the dude, and you literally have no excuse right now. You have 2 good receivers that you know of. Let's see what happens if Jalen Reagor becomes like this decade's Nelson Aguilar, basically. I just think you only gave up a first and a fourth, and you already had plenty. You already got your main guy in Jordan Davis. Like you basically took your surplus and you turned it into a proven player. So I think as far as for AJ Brown, am I concerned in fantasy? Yes, a little bit, just because he won't, because there's games last year where the second half plan is feed AJ Brown the ball. Like the game against San Francisco comes to mind, where he ended up with like 12 like catches or something like that, something absurd. But I'm actually pretty excited because now I think Jalen Hurts can do it, and having him as a bona fide one, you have a legit receiver in Devontae Smith, and then you have Goddard, Miles Sanders. I think they'll be okay. As far as the Titans go, you basically draft his replacement in Treylon Burks. So I think, it's all right. I think he'll do good, but that does mean I'm a little wary on Derrick Henry's usage next year, coming from the injury. Let's hope he stays up, and then I wouldn't draft Tannehill, to be honest with you, at this point. That's someone I think he's in complete waiver status for me.
Yeah, no, I think Tannehill is going to lose his job at some point this season, but I will get to that because we got to talk about the reason why later. But back to the trade, I think AJ Brown is a loser in this trade. He's going to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' deep ball accuracy and percentages, and the amount of times he throws it deep is terrible. So I think his usage is gonna suck. He's a running quarterback. It's a running system. They're gonna run the football to their committee back, and they're gonna design QB runs and sprinkle in passes. I honestly don't know why they made the trade, because they can't throw the football to begin with.
Well, so can I devil's advocate your devil's advocate?
Okay. Yes, but let me talk about the Tennessee side first. And then on Tennessee side, I think Treylon Burks is a question mark. I think he's a good player, a lot of potential. I think it's good that they're not going to have to shell out all this money for AJ Brown now. But can Treylon Burks become the next AJ Brown? I don't know. I think the fantasy value is there, and it's worth picking him up maybe between the 3rd and 6th pick in the draft. But
like I said, you're rolling the dice on it. You don't know you had a first thing in AJ Brown, but he wanted out. So
I will say Treylon Burks at Arkansas might have been the most dominant wide receiver in college football in 2021. I think that only because Drake London got hurt. If Drake London had not been hurt, it would have been Drake London. But with Drake London hurt, it was Treylon Burks.
So, yeah, I would say that. And I would say the best receiver in college football is a guy coming out next year. To be honest with you.
Fair.
But out of so that's the last receiver.
Those are like the 2 trades. Yeah.
I thought the trades were interesting. It made it hard.
They were.
I was killing it on the predictions until all of these trades.
Until everybody started.
So we talked about the receiver run. What's your favorite fit? Because personally, for me, I think it's Garrett Wilson.
Out of the whole first round.
Favorite fit of the receivers, just receivers.
Oh, okay, just receivers. Fit for system or fit for usage?
Usage.
I mean, I go overall, and I think both of those, in my opinion, is Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Drake London or Garrett Wilson for me.
I was going to say Drake London.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I think Garrett Wilson's going to be good in that system, but I mean, what kind of timeshare is he going to have with Corey Davis, and where are they going to put him? Because is he big enough to play on the outside? I don't, because that's saying he's going to turn into Calvin Ridley if you think he's good enough to play on the outside, which is kind of saying a little bit because they're going to have Barrios in the slot. He's not losing that job. They love him.
Well, who knows? Because you also have Elijah Moore in that scenario. So but the thing you have to understand is, like, from the Shanahan system, I think if you can just put him in motion, put him in a position to succeed, he has the best ability as far as Yak, in my opinion. I think Elijah Moore is very underrated in that category, but I think honestly Garrett Wilson, he's special when the ball's in his hands.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good. I don't know. I have a lot of hope for Drake London just in terms of how much usage he's going to get. And I think Arthur Smith, in terms of scheming players, I think he's going to scheme them really well. A lot better than what the Jets can for Garrett Wilson, because I just don't believe in the Jets offense to score any points.
I think that's fair. That's a situation where it's like I have to see it to believe. And I get that.
And I'm totally okay if they want to prove me wrong, because I love Garrett Wilson. I would have been more than happy if the Falcons had drafted Garrett Wilson. But the fact is, I don't believe in that team. I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of Saleh and what he's doing over there. So, but I would love for them to prove me wrong. I'd love for the Jets to be good.
They deserve it.
But, yeah, I do think Drake London's going to have the best fit and usage just because of, Arthur Smith. He likes to stretch the field. He likes to call play action and then throw it down the field. And that's going to be good for a dominant wide receiver that has potentially Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans level talent.
Vincent Jackson's a perfect comp for him.
Oh, yeah, I think he's going to be a Vincent Jackson, which makes me happy as a fan.
Yeah, so when it comes to fantasy positions, I mean, obviously there's a lot of O-linemen, D-linemen selected after that. We got to talk about Kenny Pickett at 20. How do y'all feel about that? Because I think that's basically the Steelers telling everyone, hey, we're here to win now. And they also drafted a few replacements within day 2, which I think is very interesting, which we'll talk about in a quick second. But Kenny Pickett ended up being the first quarterback taken. How do y'all feel?
I think that's a great pick for them. It's a good fit, and I think he's going to do well as a replacement for Roethlisberger. He might have to sit behind the starter, for a year, but he can be plugged in day one and be fine.
Yeah, I think
now my thing really quickly with him, I don't want to start him if I'm Pittsburgh week 1. No. And the reason why is because the offensive line isn't there yet. And I don't want what happened to Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence to happen to Kenny Pickett, which will happen because the O-line isn't there yet.
Yeah. And that's where
that's why I say
comes in.
Sacrifice Mitchell Trubisky to Roger Goodell and pray for Kenny Pickett and an offensive lineman next year.
That's what I think. They should do. They should sit him the first year like the Chiefs did with Mahomes, sat him behind Alex Smith for a year. Yeah. Let him watch, let him play, let him get used to the NFL, and then bring him out whenever he's ready. So,
because I love him. I think he's talented. I think he'll do a good job, but I wouldn't want to throw away his potential in year 1 when you already have your bridge quarterback. You don't need Kenny Pickett to be your bridge. You already have your bridge in Mitchell Trubisky. Throw him in the garbage can where he belongs, because his career is already dead. Yeah. And let Kenny Pickett become the next 20 years of this team.
The only way where I think this gets interesting is if Pittsburgh does really bad next year and they're in a possible contention for a top quarterback. Because I think they know that Pickett is good enough to where he can take the team now and just run with it. Now, it may not
Right.
be the Hall of Fame like projection that was Ben Roethlisberger, but
Right. But he
he's
could
good
be an
enough
all-pro.
He could be, yeah, he could be.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens there. Overall, I mean, a lot of first round, a lot of defense. That's what this draft was. With the Hollywood trade, Linderbaum was taken with that pick.
Which is good value too at 25.
Good value at 25.
He was the best interior offensive lineman in the draft.
Would have been upset with him at 14, but to get him and have your guy at 14 as well, I'm perfectly okay with that.
And I love Trevor Penning at 19 to the Saints. I mean, that was a huge need. They didn't have to reach for him.
That's called we are trusting Duke Manyweather for that.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, he replaces Aaron Armstead.
Right.
I was actually predicting that they would take a quarterback in that first round.
Yeah, me and Ryan were sitting there like, all right, this is where Malik Willis is going to. Trevor Penning. Okay.
Yeah, when they picked Penning, I was like, whoa,
that's actually really
yeah,
good. That was
I was like, that's good. But that just shows, how much faith they have in Jameis Winston right now, and how they're rebuilding from the ground. They're rebuilding from the ground up.
Yeah.
But they're rebuilding from the ground up in hopes that maybe next year or the year after that, quarterback for them.
Yeah.
Right. And they have Michael Thomas back. So they have Michael Thomas and Olave. Yeah. So they have 1-2. Jameis Winston was great. The O-line can be solidified now with Penning. He could be potentially an all-pro tackle with the amount of shares he's going to get. He just has to get acclimated. I think that was a home run from the Saints, which you will not hear me say often.
Yeah. They'll have to get coached up, but I think it's good. It's a good pick.
But all right, continuing on, we got McDuffie at 21. I mean, that's a top 12 pick. Just
great replacement
value from Kansas City. Yeah. It's good on them to make the move. Tyler Smith at 24, I want to talk about because I think just because they're trying to rebuild that O-line again. So he's a great run blocker, not the greatest in pass protection. I also didn't see Dallas really address, so they have a lot of hope address like passing options. They're really hoping on Michael Gallup can make it, but he's also going to be coming off a torn ACL. Right. We'll see what happens. I'm not 100% sure, but
I don't have any faith. I don't have any faith.
I think Tyler Smith will be great. Everything else I think is the bigger issue. But I mean, I'm more of a hater about 22 than Tyler. I didn't love Tyler Smith, especially with Linderbaum still there. And I don't know what they're doing. They've been needing a center since Travis Frederick retired.
Yeah, so. but Quay Walker.
So
22.
So here's why. So obviously we found out the Nakobe Dean medicals were a lot worse than we realized. And I think everyone was like, you know what, Channing Tindall's all right. He's solid. I think everyone liked Quay Walker because you knew that he had room to grow. So you basically banked on the potential. Because the issue with Nakobe Dean that's kind of gotten fixed within the draft since he got picked by Philly is the fact that he had probably the greatest D-line in the history of college football in front of him. Right. And basically he has another solid D-line in front of him. So he's still going to be able to do that. So I think with Quay Walker, though, you're banking on potential there. I would have traded down, get some more value because you kind of just need it. And plus, Jets were calling to trade up at that point. Jacksonville traded up at that point.
But you have Devin Lloyd still on the board.
Yeah, but the thing is they had Devondre Campbell. And so that's where I personally would have taken Lloyd. I think Lloyd was far and away linebacker
if you want Quay Walker, he was going to be there in the second. That's what I'm trying to say. He's got a late second round grade. Yes, there's potential, but I mean, a lot of the time with these high potential guys, they don't end up panning out. You say, oh man, he's got so much potential, and then he busts.
But look at what Green Bay's done. This is, to me, I'm not surprised. One, they will never pick a skill player within the first round. We've learned that. But think of who some of their first round picks have been on defense. Two come to mind: Darnell Savage and Rashawn Gary. And so overall, I think they're quietly rebuilding the defense because they did lose quite a bit. And so I think when it comes to fantasy, Aaron Rodgers, even though he lost Devontae Adams, is not a bad buy low option. just because they're depending on him more than ever. So I think it's like, think of it with Herbert in his first year, where you're like, you're just going to have to do something. And that's how I kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers' season will go.
Aaron Rodgers is pissed, man. That's all I have to say.
At least you got a receiver. Let's start out. I mean,
we'll get to it.
You want to get to round two? Because I'd say
no. Let's not do round two.
We have a few more things to talk about, and we can kind of go through quick. 23, Kyer Allen, home run. He's got the same film pretty much as Singletary, but people were just hating on him because it's Florida. But, but I love him.
Related to Matt Elam, which Matt Elam was a massive bust, but Kyer Elam is really good. Do not.
Oh my gosh! Twisted. Yeah, he's gonna be amazing. And then we can jump to 26 now. We've already hit Tyler Smith and Leonard Baum.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson, Jets trade.
Jermaine Johnson,
great pickup. He was
great rusher.
Yeah, he was like in the conversation at 4, and you're able to get him at 26. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
He fell. Yeah, he fell. Me and Ethan were sitting there watching. Past round 16. We were just watching him drop.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say
it seemed for like every turn,
but I just think at 26 you gotta take the guy, someone who is bona fide like edge 4. And the thing is, honestly, in my opinion, this year's edge 4 and edge 5 could have been edge 1 in a different year, and I think that's someone that you go and get him.
Jermaine Johnson, he's got really good bend and really good leverage, which is nice to have off of the outside. He was just a freak with what he could do. It's just a different skill set than some of these other guys, because Trayvon Walker's just kind of a speed freak off the edge. Aiden Hutchinson's, kind of like your big kind of strong guy, maybe not like a Bosa, but kind of in that realm. And then KT's kind of your mixed bag, kind of mixy. I'm over here, I'm over there. And then you have Johnson, who's this kind of bendy, agile freak who's just going to give you a headache, because, every single rush, it's like, okay, he's going to the outside. And then all of a sudden he's inside of you, crossed your face and hitting your quarterback. And I love him.
Oddly enough, the person that came to mind when I was watching Jermaine Johnson? Terrell Suggs.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Interesting.
I could see
that. I think that's just a great pickup.
Not as big, but I could see that in terms of how kind of shifty he is.
I like to say, before we get out of the first round, the last 4 being Devin Lloyd, Cole Strange, George Karlaftis, Daxton Hill, and Louis Sean. I really love the last 2 picks of that category, Daxton Hill and Louis Sean. I think they're great scheme fits.
Yeah. Those were just not reaches, because they're the safety class in this draft, no one talked about, but safety was one of the deepest and strongest positions in this entire draft.
And there's one dude that got undrafted. I was like, in another year, he's a 4th, 5th round pick to me.
Yeah.
Marquise Bell out of Florida A&M.
I want to flip back really quick before we finish that. Devin Lloyd is a steal at 27 to Jacksonville, who now has Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, and Josh Allen. That's ridiculous.
And then you also can fit in Caleb on Chason at that point.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Chason is, I loved him. I was hoping Atlanta was going to get him in the second round last year, but it's okay. I'm not bitter. And then Devontae Wyatt.
He picked up. Here's the thing.
It's like, scheme fit.
Yeah. Scheme fit. And they're just going to grab the best player available in that situation, no matter the needs. Cole Strange, he fits the Shaq Mason role. Remember, they traded Shaq Mason,
but he was just a very far reach.
Yeah,
very far.
I think he was a reach, just a little bit, just a little bit of a reach. But I think he
wasn't even projected to go in. Yeah, but
he was early third. And so here's the thing though, when it comes to like the guards, he was probably the best guard left, if you really want to think about it, because all the other ones were your tackle
for raw talent. Yes. Yeah.
Honestly,
I think
he's really rough. He's really rough. He just
prove us all wrong.
Needs coaching.
He could prove us all wrong.
He just needs coaching. He really does.
But that's why you go to Belichick. Yeah. So I don't think that's a problem of this guy who needs coaching to be considered a first round pick.
As much as it's a reach by the consensus like media,
It's New
at
England.
this point, I'm not going to disagree with Bill Belichick. If he finds if
Hey,
he
yeah,
finds
who
a niche
knows?
player for you,
My
he'll
God.
find it.
Bill Belichick could tell me the sky is red, and
I'll
I'm
believe
rolling
it.
with it.
Yeah.
It must be the sunset. It has to be.
Yeah. So I want to get to this part.
Karlaftis had 30 really quickly. Karlaftis absolutely
Really great
stealing
pick.
30
Really
from
great
Kansas
pick.
City. Second round.
Because they low-key needed edge players. But notice a position we didn't talk about barely at all, and that's quarterbacks. A lot of the quarterbacks we thought were going round 1, round 2, ended up going round 3. But before we get to that, there's one draft pick in the second round that I went, oh no. And that's actually Kenneth Walker to Seattle. And the reason why I say, oh no, is because there's a problem with Chris Carson, like an injury problem. And I'm very concerned about that. I think that basically says Chris Carson may not be a fantasy option, and that's a buyer beware for me.
Get Rashad Penny if you can.
Hey, who has Rashad Penny?
Shut up, Richter. Shut up, Richter. If you can get Rashad Penny for cheap right now,
do it.
Go and get him, please. I don't think Kenneth Walker is going to be I don't think any of these running backs, which is an absolute shame, are going to be fantasy relevant other than Atlanta's pick in the 5th round, which was, hold on, give me 1 second. Algier out of BYU. He may be the only fantasy relevant running back this year.
All right. Personally, I wish Kenneth Walker got picked up to Atlanta because I was like, that's kind of Derrick Henry light. And just how he plays, not necessarily the build, but just play style. But I think Breece Hall is someone you need to look at. I don't know if he's RB1.
No, he'll be RB2 maybe.
But I really like that move. And also RIP Michael Carter's fantasy stock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Michael Carter's dead. Sorry, y'all who drafted him last year. But in terms of second round,
maybe.
Sorry. Go ahead. I don't want.
I was gonna say there may be some hope for him. They may end up trying to do a whole committee back situation. Another pick for running back was James Cook that I liked. James Cook to the
also that means
it sucks me, but because I have both of the running backs for the Bills, but he may end up sitting.
I'll tell you straight up at this point, you can drop Zach Moss. You can drop Zach Moss. It's going to be Singletary and James Cook from this point.
Well, and he proved at the end of last season that Zach Moss is done.
Yes.
I thought he had hope.
There's another pick I want to bring up in round 2. I know we're kind of blitzing through this, but Wan'Dale Robinson. Let me tell you this from the get-go. He was picked
from Kentucky to the Giants.
To the Giants. That is the Giants letting everyone know Kadarius Toney is available.
Yeah,
they're the same player.
Oh yeah.
So they've already said that. They already put him on the trade block.
Yeah. Let's talk. I mean, yeah, they've already put him on the trade block, but that's definitely something. If you have Kadarius Toney, be very careful. He might be on the move soon. Yeah. But this is where both the Chiefs and the Packers lost a receiver in the offseason, picked up one. Packers picking up Christian Watson, and the Chiefs picking up Sky Moore. Now, both of you guys, which receiver you like more?
Christian Watson. I'm sorry. I have to disagree. I don't want to, but it's Christian Watson with Aaron Rodgers. It has to be.
Christian Watson with Aaron Rodgers, bona fide number one. I was hoping there would be a debate, but I didn't think there was a debate in my head.
Now, I think John Mechie to the Texans at 44 is a phenomenal pick if he can get healthy. But, I mean, I love Pickens to the Steelers as well.
Cooks.
Cooks, Nico Collins. You didn't really have a number two. So I think Mechie could be
he'll probably be two. He'll probably be a really good number two.
But we need to talk about later in the round. I mean, I talked about Sky Moore already. I think that's a really good fit. He's not Tyreek Hill whatsoever, but he will get open. He is a dog.
Oh, yeah. I love Pickens to the Steelers, though. I think that was great.
So that's the one I wanted to bring up. That also means Deontay Johnson, James Washington, George Pickens, and they took Calvin Austin later, too. Calvin Austin, the receiver from Memphis. But one I actually really do want to bring up. We actually haven't brought this up yet. It's the pick after Pickens. Alec Pierce to the Colts. I love that pick. Pair him up with Michael Pittman. I think you finally get the legitimate number 2. I think
he could be. We'll see. I think he could be, but we'll see. Like, there's just so many question marks with the draft because it's like, oh man, he could be, and then most of the time they end up not being. But I could be wrong. I live to be wrong. That is my purpose in life.
Yeah, but for me, I think buy low Alec Pierce, honestly. When it comes to receivers, like if you're in round 2 or 3 and you say you went Breece Hall in the first round and you're like, crap, what receiver do I pick? I think Alec Pierce should get mentioned.
Yeah. And then just really quickly, I think some sneaky good picks, if you guys want to talk about. Jalen Petrie to the Texans.
Petrie is really good. I love that pick.
This secondary in the Texans might go from worse to
decent,
pretty good. And then the pick directly after that, Arnold Ebiketie to Atlanta, aka AK. I think he's going to be great for Atlanta with Lorenzo Carter. They might have a better pass rush this year because that's a first round talent that only got knocked because of his size. And Aaron Donald's kind of proved, among others, that size doesn't necessarily matter in the NFL. So I love that. Andrew Booth Jr.
Yep, that's the one I was going to bring up. Really like Andrew Booth.
What a good pick.
I'm really happy with our second.
That's a first round talent at 42.
Yes, and
I'm very happy.
He fell to 42 due to injuries concerns. That's it.
Yeah. And then you can say the same thing about Ojabo, who went to Baltimore.
As soon as I realized that Ojabo was the pick, I was like, you know what? You got three starters within your first 3. And then I'll be honest, I'll say this up front. Yes, I'm a Ravens fan. I objectively love the Ravens draft class.
Oh, yeah. No, they had probably the second best class.
Yeah, I was going to say the Ravens were second only to
the Jets.
The Jets.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Because I will say the Ravens were
deeper. The Ravens were deeper, their class, but the Jets up front just destroyed.
Well, the Jets, everything. I think the Jets got 3 high-level starters, at least, within round 1. And then you got a really good starter in round 2. And when Shanahan systems, you usually never see a running back get picked that high. And I think the fact that they went, you know what, we are going to take this really talented dude who will fit this scheme really well. As much as I have Michael Carter, as much as that stinks for him, I think Michael Carter is going to be used more in the passing game because I think he really took off in that area of things. But you get a consistent running threat now. And I think we've seen it with Denver. Now, obviously, they didn't have a quarterback, but you can have a 1-2 punch in the top 20. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think you gotta watch out for those two still.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for the third?
Let's see. Was there anyone else I wanted to bring up besides that the Cowboys draft sucked? But that's
my gosh. If you're a Cowboys fan,
look away.
You are praying for Jerry Jones to sell. Like at this point, y'all have to make a change because he's just not it anymore. Let him run operations, let him do whatever, but you need a real GM now. Yeah, because the game is different.
I will say though, Vikings Ed Ingram, I really like that because I think he has guard center versatility.
And we didn't pick up our center from 2
Bradbury,
years ago.
Right?
Yeah, Bradbury.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so
we're probably going to be looking to replace him. I do want to bring up something interesting though, and that's the Cardinals draft. They did at pick 55 take Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State.
Oh my gosh, I love him.
He's really good.
You can run a 2 tight end set now. I mean, you can run heavy and you can.
I hope that's what it means because I think they ran the ball way better in 2 tight end sets plus first year, and I think that helped Kyler get into the game. And then they just use their first round pick on Hollywood, which I mean.
It's a little bit of a reach, but they could have reached on somebody in the first round too. So just thinking about it that way.
Yeah, that's true. But I think they also needed that deal screams to me, you better make this work, Cliff.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm Rondell Moore or a Rondell Moore owner, I'm loving it because we didn't talk about this at the beginning, but with Nuke getting suspended for the first 6 games, I mean, that's good value for them. It's going to be hard for Kyler in Arizona at the start of the season. I think they're going to, kind of be in like the 2-4 range or, somewhere in there.
It's not going to be
Maybe
good.
3-3, maybe 3-3 at best. But Rondell Moore is going to have a lot of value in the first 6 games.
Totally agree. Let's also bring up Nick Bonito, Casa Bonito.
Oh my gosh.
Denver.
Yeah, to Denver, literally the perfect spot for him where he's going to wreak havoc and be the next guy off the edge.
Yep.
I'm a hater.
I'm down to go to round 3 because round 3, I think we should only talk about there's 3 draft picks, and that's the 3 quarterbacks in all.
Well, I don't know. Think about the first player taken before the second quarterback, Jelani Woods. I love Jelani Woods from Virginia.
You have the 2 towers, Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods.
Dude, that is going to be an awesome set for the Colts. And having Jonathan Taylor with 2 massive tight ends.
I
can't wait to see what they do.
Let's not forget Bernard Raymond at pick 77.
Oh, yeah.
He's super athletic. You just want to see him just like be a little bit more physical, but I think that's a good fit, honestly.
This is going to be a scary take, but I think the Colts are going to be a better run blocking team this year than they were last year.
100%.
And I don't know how I feel about that.
No,
I don't know how I feel about that.
That's the antithesis to what the AFC West did.
Right.
But I kind of
74. Pick of the
74.
draft, the pick of the entire draft, in my opinion, Desmond Ritter to the Falcons.
Honestly, here's the thing. I think
Ritter, the entire draft. No.
Not the entire draft. But we have
now,
the Falcons fans.
Okay. Let me say steal of the draft then. He was the steal of the entire draft.
No.
Because that's a first round.
I wouldn't
talent.
even say that.
That is a first round talent you got in the 3rd round who can be a starting quarterback in week 1. Now, I mean, it's going to be a competition that he has to win and he has to kind of work on some consistency. But if you can get consistency into his game, I mean, I am not against some of the people who have him as the highest rated QB in this class.
So, I mean, I personally did not have him as the number 1 QB in this class. But
I have him 1 or 2.
No matter what, Ritter's still a good quarterback. I think there's some mechanical stuff that you have to fix, but Atlanta's is in no rush to start him. So I love the fit, honestly.
But I think Arthur Smith is the guy to send him to.
Exactly, and because he honestly doesn't he play like Tannehill? Like if you really think about it.
Oh yeah, he's like because Tannehill's similar size. I think Tannehill's 6'2" or 6'3".
Yeah, it's a Tannehill clone.
Yeah.
I think he's more mechanical issues.
But I think he's going to be a better runner, and I think Arthur Smith is going to open up more
that's
for
where
his running game that Cincinnati didn't. So I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be an upgrade over Mariota. Like Mariota, take him, but he can throw the ball a little bit better, and he can run better.
Yeah, personally, the steal of the draft for me is pick 86.
Oh no!
I'm also not going to talk about the Ravens pick. I love that pick though.
It's not Malik Willis. I promise you, it is not Malik Willis.
Well, here's the reason why. Again, no positions. You're in no rush to start him. It's number 1, and hopefully Treylon Burks succeeds. But I just think at the 3rd round, with someone who clearly had round 1 tools, to me, I think the pick is good. For the Titans, this is your home run shot.
I'm just worried because I don't know who in this Tennessee organization is going to develop him. Because it would have been Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
He's in Atlanta now. And, you've got Tannehill who's come out, and I guess, he's really struggling with what happened to them in the playoffs and saying, hey, it's not really my thing to take Willis under my wing. I'm not really going to do anything for him. I'm worried about Willis.
Well,
he said that, but he also said like it's not his job, but if he learns something, cool. Yeah, so he's not going to purposefully take under his wing and show him the ropes, but he is going to let him learn from. He's
And
going to let him
as-
observe.
if I was a
and be there.
coach, I personally liked what Tannehill said because his job is still to win games for the Tennessee Titans.
Right.
Yeah.
And if Malik Willis learns a thing or two, then that's great. But he has signed the contract to be the starting quarterback, not to be the backup. And obviously, I think the Titans definitely would have told Tannehill, is like, hey, we're thinking of this. Here's our plan. That's just how the Titans organization seems to be. So I do believe when he says it's not my job right now. But 2-3 years now, who knows? Because Malik Willis is going to need that. What I'm more shocked about is the fact that none of the teams went after these quarterbacks knowing the fifth-year options possible in the first round.
Yeah.
To me, that says a lot.
But I mean, they're kind of project quarterbacks anyways, so they don't want to necessarily commit to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the teams that we thought would grab a quarterback has essentially said, we like next year better.
Yeah, which, fair enough.
Which,
so the last person to
and
talk
I
about.
predict now. Oh, I was
No,
gonna say,
go ahead,
I
go ahead.
predict now, like next year, the year after, there's going to be a QB run.
Yeah,
and it's going to be
it's going to be like last year's draft. There's just going to be a huge, ridiculous
fierce.
QB run.
Yeah, it's going to be fierce. There's going to be a lot of teams going for quarterbacks. I know the Vikings are going to be one because I don't think we're going to hold on to Cousins for a whole.
Well, yeah, you have to hold on to him this year because of the cap hit, but next year it starts getting a little bit easier. The last one I kind of want to bring up though. Well, Cleveland picks David Bell from Purdue. I think that's a solid pick, but to me, it doesn't really move the needle. But Matt Corral at pick 94 to the Carolina Panthers. I do find that interesting. I have had Corral.
I think he's got the best mechanics of all the QBs.
Do you think he sits behind Darnold?
Not for long. That's just
I agree with that. Not for long, which I think is a negative because again, I know they got Icky Ekwonu, but still, I mean that O line isn't great.
Yeah, I think the O line still needs to be worked. I think there's still a couple free agents that they can go after, but I really do believe that Corral's the best quarterback there. I've had Corral as my QB1 for the longest time, honestly. So I was like, thank goodness, DJ Moore. I hope you're saved, please.
Yeah, I mean the top three quarterbacks are separated based on. I mean, we're going to see this year because
at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean Malik Willis has the most potential. Corral has the best mechanics, and Ritter, I think, is another guy who has a lot of potential, kind of like Malik Willis, but he also has his size and speed.
And has the experience like Kenny Pickett does. And Kenny Pickett just had probably one of the best receivers in Jordan Addison, and then you had a couple people there.
Now, here's my thing on Ritter too. Ritter made Cincinnati what it was because Cincinnati was a nobody team that he turned into a top 4 team in college football by himself. And the thing about Desmond Ritter is he gets better every single year he plays.
That's something
that's what Atlanta wanted.
And I think the thing is also, especially with Atlanta, is knowing that you have seen an upward progression, to where you can make that into a good projection.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think.
Yeah. And I think he's in a better system too.
All through college.
I think of all the systems, I think Desmond Ritter had the best system in terms of developing a quarterback, followed by Pickett and then Matt Corral. In terms of like what's going to translate to the NFL, I think he had the most NFL, comparison type offense that he was running out of all of them because, that's what Cincinnati did. And I think that's kind of what held them back a little bit, if I will, is they're running an NFL offense in college football. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work. But that's neither here nor there. I think we should go to round 4. But Josh, go ahead.
The big thing is the fit, honestly. That's something that, I mean, for future episodes, we stress on the most is the fit.
Right.
Now, round 4, speaking of fit.
I think there's only 2 picks to really talk about, and they're back-to-back.
Name them because I might have a different one.
So my two are Kobe Bryant and Falele.
All right, I have Falele too. That's one.
So Kobe Bryant was the other half of that Cincinnati defensive secondary. I mean, I think he's a second round talent that they stole in the fourth round.
I would
I
agree with
love
that.
Kobe Bryant. I love him. He's just as long and as kind of swaggery as Sauce was, but he got overshadowed just because Sauce gave up 0 touchdowns. Yeah, he got more targets because they didn't want to go after Sauce, even though Kobe Bryant was just as good.
The best quote I heard just about the Cincinnati defense was they said, "Nah, we were too scared of Sauce, so we threw a slapdick receiver on them and just told him to run." But I think Kobe did really well, considering basically
he was getting matched up with the number one.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the time.
But I really want to bring up Falele. I love this pick.
He has so much potential.
So much potential. We have freaking Godzilla now. And again, I'm going to bring up the words I said earlier, draft aliens prosper. That's Falele here. He played right tackle, so you don't have to worry about some tackle talking about, I want to be a left tackle instead. But great at down blocking, and he just wore people out. And I think in the Ravens scheme, like the option game, plus just having Lamar in the backfield, it's a perfect fit, match made in heaven.
Yeah. And then that's really it for me in round 4. I don't know if Damian Pierce would be the only other one just because of the fit, I think.
I do want to bring up another one. Yeah, bring up yours, Ryan.
I was going to say Isaiah Spiller to the Chargers.
So I was going a few picks below Pierre Strong to New England. I do love Pierre Strong.
I think that was a steal for the 4th round. But, I mean, in terms of Isaiah Spiller, I love the talent. I don't love the fit because he's not going to eclipse Eckler.
Yeah,
he's not going to eclipse Eckler now, but they have somebody that is there if Eckler, with his injuries over the last couple of years.
I mean, if he gets
have
injured,
somebody there now.
But I mean, Justin Jackson is electric. I mean, I don't think Isaiah Spiller will be relevant for at least 2 or 3 years.
He'll be relevant
just because
yet.
True, but
until they get rid of Justin Jackson.
Yes,
but Justin Jackson has been sitting behind him for a while. So I don't know.
I'd still take Justin Jackson over there. But that's just me.
Yeah, the last pick. There's one pick. There's a couple of things I want to bring up. But there's some I won't talk about too much. But I just want to say I love them. Romeo Dubes to Green Bay. I actually think that's very sneaky and really like. Charlie Kohler, Isaiah Likely to Baltimore. Not good for fantasy, but good for on the field. Now this brings me to the pick I love because it's such a low key draft pick, and I think it should get praised. Chig Okonkwo to Tennessee is such a good pick. It's Delaney Walker all over again. And I think Chig is going to fit really well just as far as run blocking, but he's such a great receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. And that brings us to round 5. I think there's only a couple in here to really talk about. Khalil Shaker to the Bills. I don't like the fit right now, but maybe next year or his 3rd year in the league, I could see him having some relevancy. I think that has great value at 148.
As far as like on the field, I love Thomas Booker to Houston. But really kind of one of the big fits I really like. I gotta find it. It'll begin. So Sam Howell to Washington, I don't hate.
No, yeah.
But I also love Cole Turner to Washington. And as the Logan Thomas insurance policy, I really like that.
Yeah.
Trying to see who else. Ooh,
Tyler Algier. I love that. He's going to be fantasy relevant for Atlanta. Because he's a 4-down back.
4-down back. I think he's really solid. I want to bring up a Vikings pick in here because I gave him a 2nd round grade personally. Tyler Algier. I think he just got kind of overshadowed. Yeah, I had third, but I think that's still just great value for Atlanta, honestly.
Oh
And
yeah.
they got rid of Mike Davis, so
Yeah, and
um,
saved a couple million in that, so
yeah.
thank God for that.
But I do want to bring up two more. Ty Chandler to Minnesota, I really do like because he does provide a
Okay.
different skill set than Madison and Cook. Essentially, again, we've always talked about Madison is the insurance policy to Dalvin Cook. So Ty Chandler is a completely different back.
Yeah.
And so he's not going to take the reps, but I see a lot more passes out of the backfield now. And then another one, Kyron Williams to the Rams. I think again, just insurance policy. Kyle Phillips, though, he dominated the Shrine Bowl, and now he takes that talent to Tennessee. They haven't had a good slot presence in forever, and I think Kyle Phillips can develop into that.
Yeah. And I think that's really, I don't really have anyone 6 or 7.
One of the steals of the draft.
But-
I'll just say it real quick. Kingsley
Oh yeah, I love
Barre
Igna
at
Barre.
179.
That's absurd. I don't know how he fell
absurd
that far.
value. Round 6. I gotta look through this.
I
That's
don't
right.
really have anyone. All of these guys are really big projects of maybe they'll hit, maybe they won't. Most likely you're not going to hit on them. But that was just
So-
my evaluation.
I will say Jamari Sawyer, and along with Zion Johnson, I think basically they reloaded the Chargers interior O-line, so I do like that. Tyler Beatty, I think is pretty solid.
I mean, the Chargers surprisingly went further on their offensive line. Yeah,
I think again,
which intrigued me.
It's very intriguing. I didn't see much D-line help as far as interior D-line, so that's something that we may have. I'll have to take a look at to see like who they have at that position. I also like Grant Calcaterra.
Yeah.
As for the Eagles, and it gives them another receiving threat.
Yeah. So I mean, that's our draft. I mean, in terms of like who I think killed it. I mean, my top 3 are. I'll give top 5. My top 5 are Jets, Baltimore, Kansas City, the Giants, and oh man, that's hard. Either Atlanta or the Titans. The reason why I leave out the Eagles is because they got one good player in the first round and then nothing really else. It wasn't a bad class, but you know.
Yeah, I'll give mine really quick, and then y'all can end the episode whenever y'all are done. I have to go, unfortunately, but I love the Ravens, love the Jets drafts. I really do like what Kansas City did. I think they low-key filled some needs, and then I personally think the Giants were very solid as well.
Yeah, I mean, they started hot as well, like the Jets, but Richter, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
On your work trip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ryan,
we'll see you.
Why don't you close this out here?
All right. Well, actually, Josh. Oh, okay.
He's disappeared into the abyss.
Yeah, he has disappeared. He cut out on us. Well, that is kind of our draft
recap
review. Recap of the draft. It's been fun going over this with you guys. So
I'm excited. You know, if you're a football fan,
draft for year.
I love it. I loved all the research we got to do too.
Yeah, but not a whole lot of fantasy relevance. It's heavily defensive this year. Hopefully next year we'll get a lot into more fantasy QBs, relevant, especially in the first couple of rounds where they're going to be starters. They're not projects that you roll the dice on.
I think that's a good point because we didn't really mention this. But in terms of fantasy relevance, I'm not really looking at the running backs. I think they're kind of dead just based off of fit. Now you can argue till you're blue in the face about, fit over kind of reaching. I think fit is always better than reaching for a prospect. And you can fight me if you want. That's totally fine. You're wrong, and that's whatever. But I think just the fits where these guys went, they're going to be glorified number 2s, which is bad for fantasy. Now,
Yeah, this
wide
year
receivers
there
are-
was not very many. Yeah, wide receivers are a whole different story, but running backs, there wasn't really fantasy relevant running backs.
No, I
Maybe
think there were
James
Isaiah
Cook,
Spiller, Kenneth Walker,
maybe
and James
Isaiah
Cook.
Spiller.
But
There's
and
like
Brees
maybe
Hall.
3 or 4. Yeah, maybe 3 or 4, but they're not immediate starters. They're not,
They're number 2s.
you know, they're not plug and plays right off the bat the rookie year.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be. Maybe Brees, but that's it. The others are going to either sit behind the starter or are only going to become relevant, you know, because of injuries and whatnot. Who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
But wide receiver, deep wide receiver class.
Oh yeah, ridiculously deep.
Yeah, and you can stash the quarterbacks that were drafted.
I really would. I would try and
Ritter,
stash Ritter if
yeah.
you can. He's
Ritter,
probably like a second
Pickett.
rounder for me in fantasy drafts for
Yep.
dynasty.
Ritter,
of course.
Pickett, and Wilson, the top 3. They're probably going to be stashed. So
Yeah.
I'd stash them, and then hopefully they'll come up and become relevant. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of wide receiver, though, I'm in love with Drake London. I'm in love with Garrett Wilson. I think Jahan
Olave.
Dotson could be sneaky good. Olave can be sneaky good.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams can be sneaky good. I mean,
All of them.
Christian Watson is going to be a number 1 target in Green Bay. Like there's a lot of potential. Now I would suggest doing your research. Really pay attention to kind of how OTAs are going, depending on when you guys do your fantasy draft. But pay attention to how OTA is going and moving storylines. Because if you're really big on Christian Watson and that's who you want to be your guy in this upcoming draft, well, follow that Green Bay offseason closely because it's coming up. I believe May 13th
very closely
is the start for camps.
Yeah.
So that's a week and a half away. So really pay attention on that. In terms of an order, I don't know, maybe another episode we can do kind of our big board for the draft, but
yeah, we can go with that.
But for a future day.
For tonight, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Come check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at
Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast.
Yeah, Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. And you can check out our podcasts on Spotify podcast and check us out on YouTube. They'll all be on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitters, so you can check us out there and click the links. So
do it.
We're gonna go ahead and call it a night. Thank
on
you guys
the crazy
for watching.
recap.
Yes, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully, I know we've missed the last couple of posts for like the last month. Life's kind of been hectic for all of us.
Yeah,
So
I mean, just between work,
trying to be more consistent.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have crazy work schedules, but also, I mean, I don't want it to seem like we weren't doing, like we've been doing a lot of research and work behind the scene, and that's why, hopefully you guys see that in this episode of where we talk about 7 rounds deep, just of fits and talent and players and things. Like, please know, like we are grinding this out and trying to evaluate and bring y'all quality content so you can make the most informed decision in fantasy football and smoke your leagues.
And I want to say a special thanks to Josh and actually Ritter. Josh, who's one of our hosts here. Both of them just go above and beyond for this show with editing, filming, all of that. So thank you so much, guys. So everybody check us out on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and like and subscribe. All right.
We are the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast.
Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. See you guys.
Night.